All right, let's talk about human behavior, but not in the way you're probably used to. We're going to look at it as a system, one with its own logic, its own physics, and a very specific purpose. You know, we are swimming in books and theories about human nature, right? And they are brilliant at describing what we do, all our patterns, our biases, our weird tendencies, but they often leave us hanging on the why. It's like having this incredibly detailed map of a city, but absolutely no compass. Well, the framework we're diving into today, it's all about finding that compass. But first, it's going to ask us to throw out the old map. So to really get to that why, we have to start by, well, completely changing how we see reality itself. Seriously, it's not what you think. Okay, so this framework has a name for the reality we can see and touch. It calls it the apparition, or ACID. It's basically everything that's observable, everything we can measure. The stock market ticker analogy is perfect here. The ticker is 100% truthful, right? It tells you the numbers, the ups and downs, but does it tell you why the market is crashing? Nope. It doesn't show you the investor fear, the algorithms, the global news. That ticker, that's the apparition. It's the surface level fact, but it is not the whole story. So when you read a book like, say, Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature, what you're getting is a fantastic, super detailed description of this apparition. Think of it like the ultimate user manual for the interface of our reality. It tells you which buttons to press and what to expect. But we're not here for the user manual, right? We want the source code, the stuff running everything behind the scenes. Right, so how do we actually get from that user interface to the source code? Well, this framework has a method, and it's not a passive one. You can't just sit back and watch. No, you can't just consume what you see. You have to press it, to literally squeeze the meaning out of it. It's an active process of extraction. And to really get this, there's this brilliant analogy they use, the pomegranate metaphor. Okay, so picture this. You've got a pomegranate. That represents any event, any human behavior you're looking at. First, you toss the peel, right? That's all the useless noise, the opinions, the headlines. What you're left with is the pulp and seeds. That's the raw, observable data. Now comes the important part. You press it. You apply this intense, focused analysis to squeeze out the juice. And that juice, that's the good stuff. That's the underlying principle, the governance truth. And this juice has a name, al-haq, the truth. Not just truthfulness, but the truth. This is the why we've been looking for, the reason behind the action. And let me tell you, this simple distinction between the surface-level facts and this deeper, extracted truth, that's where this whole thing gets really powerful. It's about turning everyday stuff into major insights. Let's make this super practical. So on the surface, that's al-sidq. You might look at someone's irrational behavior and just go, people are so flawed. You know, you see it as a bug in the system. But if you press that observation, you get a totally different truth, al-haq. Suddenly, that irrationality isn't a random bug anymore. It's a signal. It's a big, flashing warning light on your cognitive dashboard, telling you something's misaligned with how the system actually works. Okay, so to do all this pressing and decoding, you need the right tools. And this framework gives you a whole cognitive operating system to work with. I'm talking a full stack. It's got its own physics engine and its own reality render. Let's get into it. First up, at the very core of this OS, you have the physics engine. It's called the AGE. Now, think about any video game you've ever played. The physics engine dictates how everything moves, interacts, falls. Well, the AGE is like that, but for our minds. It's basically calculating the trajectory of our personal development based on our choices. You could almost call it a kind of moral gravity. Then you've got the reality rendering engine, the TQG-CFE. So if the ADGE is the physics, this is the GPU, the graphics card. What does a GPU do? It takes a bunch of ones and zeros and renders this beautiful, immersive world on your screen. This engine does the same thing. It takes the objective, raw data of the world and renders the subjective reality you personally experience. And here's the kicker. The quality of that rendered world, it totally depends on your internal settings. So what's one of the key settings on this cognitive GPU? It's something called network noise. Think of it as static or interference. It's all our internal friction, our biases, our ego, all the stuff we haven't questioned. And the more noise you have cranked up in your system, the more distorted, glitchy, and laggy your personal reality is going to look and feel. Okay, so we have the OS, we have the physics, we have the GPU. Now let's plug it in. Let's see how this system takes those common human behaviors we all know and completely reframes them. not as flaws, but as actual usable data. And wow, this table just lays it all out perfectly. You can see the shift right here. What we call irrationality is now diagnosed as that network noise we just talked about, and the fix is a protocol for structured focus. Those social masks people wear, that's seen as cognitive liquidity, a sign you need to build a solid internal framework. We'll dive into short-sightedness and grandiosity in a sec, but you see the pattern, right? Every law becomes a system diagnostic with a corresponding protocol. It's a total game changer. So let's take short-sightedness. We all do it, right? React to the immediate thing. Well, in this system, that's diagnosed as a failure to use the pressing protocol, a la Osser. It's literally choosing to just grab the pomegranate pulp because it's right there and easy, instead of doing the work to press it and get the real prize, the juice, the actual lesson. And what about grandiosity, that inflated sense of self? It's not just a bad personality trait here. The system flags it as a specific kind of logical error, a feeble-minded opinion, all feel. The analogy is a house built on a spider's web. It looks like something, but it's fundamentally weak, and the system is designed to just blow it away. It's actually the same root problem as wearing social masks. Both are about projecting a hollow, fragile image instead of building something solid inside. So, okay, we've talked about apparitions, pressing for juice, a cognitive physics engine. What is the point of all this? Where does it all lead? And this is the most important takeaway. This is not a system for controlling the world around you. It's not a toolkit for manipulating other people. That's just playing with the apparitions, moving the pixels around on the screen. The real work, the entire goal, is internal. The whole point is to stop trying to edit the movie and start working on the projector. Stop trying to manipulate the simulation and start recalibrating the engine that renders it for you. And that engine, that's your own mind, your own internal state, your cognitive vector. So that leaves us with one last question to chew on. What if all those things about human nature that drive us crazy, the irrationality, the short-sightedness, what if they aren't bugs in the system? What if they're actually features? What if they're the curriculum custom designed to force our own development? What if life isn't a problem to be solved, but a code to be deciphered?